Brace yourselves, the winter is coming. In this video I'll be talking about bicycle winter tires, and to explain that I will first explain what types of snow and winter riding conditions we can see, and then I'll discuss the tires that are suitable for various types of riding conditions. I will put a special emphasis on this tire model, Schwalbe Marathon Winter tires, but I will also explain the tires in general. So when we are talking about snow, there is that normal snow that is all fluffy and that you can leave your footprints in, and where the tires will leave their tracks. For that kind of snow, if it is shallow, like up to your ankles or less deep, a good option can be to use narrower tires that can cut through the snow to the hard ground, especially if you're riding on paved roads that have just been covered with snow, or on hard ground that's been covered with snow. On the other hand, if that snow is deeper, like halfway to your ankles or even further, in that case it gets very difficult to cycle. It's highly impractical, especially for commuting, but if you really insist, you can do it. But in that case, wider tires that will not drop down into the snow so deeply are a better option. And for both those kinds of snow, it is generally a good idea to have some sort of more aggressive tread on the tires that can dig into the snow, pack it. Grip on snow is a bit different compared to the grip on mud, in terms that when you compress the snow with weight, it gets packed and the top levels get stuck to the lower levels. So if you just compress it and dig into the top layer, it will provide you with some grip so you can easily move on. While in the mud, it's all slippery all the way down, so a bit of a different mechanism and slightly different thread patterns are preferable, but what works well in the mud will work generally very well in the deep snow that is soft. We have another kind of snow that is, I think the word is slush in English, where you have melted snow that's half water, half snow, that's relatively easy to cut through, and it's very dirty. But for that kind of snow also narrower tires seem to fare better. Everything that I'm saying here is based on my experience, so take it all with a grain of salt for what it is. And finally we have ice, like frozen water, or very, very hard packed snow that's been so smoothly already crossed so many times that you can skid on it, and it's practically ice for all the practical matters. For those kinds of surfaces, the only thing that grips well is the ice skates and the tires with studs. And now, with all that in mind, let's discuss various types of tires. I'll start with ice. If you're riding on ice and you want to get any kind of grip, slick tires that are wider than this model, but slick profile, that gets, especially if they're wider so that they don't need to take a lot of pressure, that is as good as it gets. So you need lower tire pressure. Sometimes even underinflated tires work better. It still takes a lot of, you need to be careful. You cannot corner hard, you cannot brake hard, you cannot accelerate hard. And if you're going downhill, it can be very tricky, but that is as good as it gets. Why? I will explain now. If your tires leave any sort of tracks on the ground, that means that it is soft enough for them to dig into it, and that you can benefit from any sort of thread or knobs in order to get more grip. If it does not, as it is the case with paved roads, concrete and ice, then knobs create problems. Why? Here let's take a look at a close-up. Knobs are very, very soft. It's rubber, and they can move and squint, and generally they do not provide good traction when they are on a hard ground. yes, on some road surfaces, if we're considering pavement, there can be a sort of like a small hole in the pavement or crack that knob can dig into, and on that particular part of a wheel's turn, it can provide you with some extra grip. But for 99.9% of your riding, knobs on pavement, on any sort of surface where they cannot dig into, only reduce the available traction, and they are not a good idea. That is why for ice, knobby tires without studs are a very bad idea, and they do not perform very well. The same goes for wet concrete. And now let's talk about studded tires. If you're riding on, it doesn't matter if the snow is deep or shallow, if you will be facing some hard-packed snow or ice, studs are the only thing that provides you a good grip for those occasions. And the reason why I love studded tires is because sometimes, even when the roads are cleared of snow, in the winter there is some sort of like black ice. You cannot really see it. It looks just like pavement, but it's very slippery. And even if you have good lights, and even if the street is lit, if you're riding in the city, you can miss it, and the front wheel can slip very quickly, and then you go straight to the ground. It's very difficult to recover from that and to control it. So studs are a very good idea. And as far as tire thread and width go, if you're riding where the city streets, for example, or roads between cities are cleared regularly, then narrower tires that will more easily get all the way to the bottom are generally a good idea. And if the streets are not cleared regularly, or if you have a lot of snow, then knobby tires with studs are a good idea for winter. Knobby tires without studs can slip when you come on ice. So if you have any uphills to climb, it's better to have studs. If you go downhill, it's better to have studs. If you want to ride more safely on flats, it's also a good idea to have studs, at least on the front wheel. Here we have an older and wider studded tire. It's Schwalbe Marathon Winter, and this is what it looks like after about 10 winters. This one holds up pretty well, but we don't have a lot of snow in my city, only about a few weeks per year. And so I probably suppose that if I rode these tires through the entire winter, they wouldn't have lasted so long. And this is the one that's been usually used as a front one, and I'm not sure if you can see the studs. This thread pattern is not very aggressive, so they roll very quickly and nicely on pavement when most of the snow is clear, but they handle pretty well when you come in snow, but they're not very good for very deep snow. For that you need wider tires like this one. I used to ride in the deep snow with a tire like this. It's 2 inches wide or even more, and it doesn't have a lot of aggressive threads, but as a rear tire for snow it was quite good. But it doesn't have studs, so for the front wheel in the winter time I prefer to have a studded tire in any way. And this is a new Schwalbe Marathon Winter, and it has these studs. And it also, here let me show you a stud. I'll try to show what a stud looks like. Hope you can see it. It has this top that is flat, so it's not like a really sharp thing, but it is very hard steel, and it doesn't wear out when you ride on pavement, so that's very good, and they don't rust through even when there's a lot of salt. They will show some surface rust, but they last for years. And they also Schwalbe also offers this kind of tool that is used for inserting studs into the tires. So you put the stud into the tool and then you can insert it. I'll try to show that on camera. Here I'm trying to take out one stud, pressing in the tool. Here it is, the stud is out, and the way to insert it, you see the hole, you just press it in a bit sideways, push it all the way in, make sure it's nicely seated, and take the tool out. And here it's now seated. And make sure if you've lost a stud and you want to replace one, Schwalbe sells these studs. You can buy them. I'll put links in the video's description for all the products. you can buy extra and replace them. They come out from time to time. And when I'm talking about that, it is important to note that at least for the Schwalbe Marathon Winter tires, you need to sort of run them in. Schwalbe recommends that you ride for a certain amount of time without hard acceleration, hard braking or anything, just so that all the studs are seated properly to make sure, and then you are less likely to lose a lot of studs. However, I like to start at the model here and go all the way around when I buy a new tire and make sure that every stud is seated properly, to double check. It takes a lot of time, but it's worth it and you don't lose a lot of studs that way. I'm trying to see if there is one that's not seated properly and that is visible clearly. But I won't be wasting time on the video for that. Anyway, the thing is, if you double check like that, it's enough to go on a 30-minute ride, make sure that the bicycle leans both to the left and to the right, so that all the studs get to contact the ground. You can do that on pavement. Just avoid hard braking, hard cornering or hard acceleration, and you're good. The tires are durable and they have a very good puncture protection. So in the winter time I don't like really fixing flats, and I am happy to put up with extra weight and extra harsh ride of tires with strong puncture protection, and so it's good. And here is the model for 28 or 29ers, even if you want, whatever you call it. I have an article on tire standards. So it's just a marketing term, 29er and 28 inch, it's the same, 622 millimeters. Give me the metric system or give me that. And this is the tire for those kinds of wheels, while this is for the 26-inch wheels or 559 millimeters. And they're both the same model but different widths. I went with a narrower tire for my main commuter bicycle that I ride in the city mostly, and I expect it, and again from my experience, that narrower tires perform better in such riding conditions, and they are a lot, they cut through sludge, which we get a lot of, more easily. So you get a better grip, they go down to the pavement more easily. And I think I've covered everything. If you have any questions or comments, use the comment section below. And I have an article also that discusses this at great length that I will also try to make pop up someplace. So winter tires, studded tires are a good idea, and I enjoy cycling all year long. And ever since I've discovered studded tires, I'm not selling them, but it's a brilliant invention and I really love it, especially the ones made by Schwalbe. Some other manufacturers make various kinds of models. I haven't really tested thoroughly any of the other models. These work just fine. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you for watching and cheers. If you like this video, you can click on subscribe and choose this bell option, select all, so you get notified whenever I upload a new video.